Well, hello there. Good afternoon to you all. Well, I did not plan to release this video like I did say on my videos early in the morning until tomorrow in the list. But since the appointment I did have with a friend kinda got cancelled by personal reasons of the other part, so I think that after returning home, kind of decided to, well, why not? Let's release the honorable mentions video on my top 20 greatest anime series of all times. And like I posted on the video early in the morning, um, I already made the series that ranked 19 and 20 on my top 20 greatest anime series of all times, and now I will make a video of honorable mentions. And for this, I think I will start with the series that ranks, let's say, 10 in my honorable mention videos. Well, I could add a lot of more series in this video, but it will be very hard because I do watch during the years a lot of series that I like, others that I did found something interesting and such. But I kind of decided to put only 10 series that are kind of a representation of the overall system, or of the overall genre, or diversity in the genres that I do watch. So, or watched in the past. So the 10 in this honorable mention list will be High School DxD, and um, if you watch my videos or take a peek on my channel or something, you already know that I'm kind of doing reviews in a weekly basis of the second season of this. I did make a final impressions video on the first season, and this series is based on a light novel that was written by, or that is being written by Ishihei Ishibumi, and it's still ongoing light novel that still is. The first season of High School DxD aired between 6th of January of 2012 until um, 23 of March of 2012, and has 12 episodes and 6 overs related. And the second season, called High School DxD New, began airing in 7th of July of 2013 and is still ongoing. It's in the middle. I think that there will be at least more 6 episodes until the end of the season, and they did animated in the first 6 episodes of this new season the arc against the Holy Sword arc, the Excalibur arc, or like I say, the arc against Okabiel and a group of fallen angels. And basically this series is interesting because it's a high school series, obviously, true, with a lot of fan service and some ashy scenes in a way, but those have an interesting plot because it's is all about angels, fallen angels, demons, and this kind of mythology, angelic mythology and such. And I do like this kind of series that have supernatural powers underneath, and have interesting characters. We have a lot of interesting characters, even if the main character is kind of, well, Yoda we say is kind of perverted guy that basically wants to squeeze boobs, but during the series he kind of gains powers and his interactions with the other characters like Rias, Mori, Akino, Koneko, Yuto, Asia. In the end, he is a good guy that does not has any problem in risking his own life to help others or to save others. Even if sometimes his reasons could be, well, more lecherous or perverted in a way, but he is a good guy and he is willing to put his life on the line to protect his friends and others and to save his family, his hometown, his school friends, and such. So, and then in the second season, in the first part of the second season, we have the introduction of two other characters. One is called Genovia, and another is called Irina, and that as the last episode, Genovia kind of became a demon because they discovered that God was dead or God was killed during the last great war between demons, fallen angels, and angels. And like the demons that lose all their leaders, including Lucifer, the angel side also lost God and several other angels. And basically, then the leaders of, or the surviving leaders of the conflict kind of decided to make a truce and stop the war. And for instance, this guy that appeared in the first half of the second season, called Kokaviel, is a member of the elite of the fallen angel, and he is very disappointed how the way the war ended, and he wants to continue the war and such, but eventually he is defeated by Valley Lucifer, that is he possesses the sacred gear of the white dragon, and as opposed to the sacred gear of Isai, that is the red dragon of Wales, called Drake. But the series is very good, is very interesting. I like the plot, the characters, and all that is related with supernatural, angelic mythology and such. I'm quite fond of it. So this is my 10 ranking in my honorable mentions series. The ranking 9 in my honorable mentions video will be a series that was from the last season, the spring season, called Suiceno Gargantia, or Gargantia on the Furthest Planet, and has 13 episodes and aired between 7 of April until 30 of June of 2030. And basically is a series set in the future where we have a character that came from space called Lido with a chamber machine collider, and he, in a battle in space, he kind of found himself in Earth, present day Earth, because mankind has migrated to space because the planet became frozen, and however there are some humans that remain in Earth, and he kind of founds a group of survivors that is living in Earth, and then there are his adventures, how he can cope with this reality, because he does not, he is a soldier and he is thrown kind of to a world where soldiers are no needed, and it's very interesting to see how he can adapt himself to this new reality, because he found then in the middle part of the series that he cannot return to space because the distance is far great, and even his machine caliber chamber, it cannot travel that distance in space. So basically this guy Lido is strangled in Earth, and then his interactions with his humans he met, especially with a girl called Amy, and his adventures on Earth, the enemies he fights, and the main antagonist in the end ends up being his commanding officer in space that was also thrown to Earth, but he died, and eventually his machine kind of took over and kind of created a cult that intends to make the humans living on Earth the same as the humans that are living in outer space, the same organization. And then he also found more about his past and the past of mankind, and basically the enemies they are fighting in outer space were humans that kinda changed genetically and were turned into something else. And he found about it, and well, the series is very good. I know that they released the OVA in the recently in 28 uh, in August of 2013. I'm waiting for let's say a sub version in English to watch it. Well, I did watch it in Japanese, but my Japanese is at beginner in the best, so I kind of need the sub version to understand a lot better of the what happened in the OVA. So this series is nine in my honorable mentions for this video. My eighth honorable mention will be Evolve Radio Deliberator or Kakumeki Evolve Radio. It was a series that aired between 12th of April of 2013 and 28th of June of 2013. It's also a spring anime season that has 12 episodes. It was very interesting. I like mecha and I like this kind of scenario. Is in a setup reality where we have three powers basically that control Earth. We have the Eros, the Atlantic Federation, the Darshan Military Empire, and we have Jar, that are basically the three main powers. And the story happened in a space module that belongs to Jar, and basically they are kind of building um, Valvreiros that are um, that are space suits, mobile suits, mechas, uh, for them to have or to defend themselves from Darshan, especially from Darshan military aggression. Uh, and we have several interesting characters because there is a mission of the Darshans at the beginning of the series, commanded by LL, that is a military officer of the Darshan Empire, and a lot of others. And their mission is to stall the Valvreives, or the Valvreive technology, to the Giarians. But the mission does not go well, and then a student of this academy called Haruto Tokishima kinda enters in the Valvreive. He becomes the pilot of the Valvreive, and he kinda loses his human abilities and gains supernatural abilities, and then eventually through he can transfer bodies, and he bites LL, then LL, controlled by Haruto, kind of ruins the plan of the Darshans to stall the Valvreives. And then we have all the situation with the students, because Jar eventually is overthrown by a military invasion of Darsha, and all in this space model remains as an independent country. And then eventually they try to organize themselves as a state, and through all the series we have other students that will become Valvreive pilots, like Sakiru Kino, that is a girl that is a pop idol and such, and is the second one that became a Valvreive pilot. We have Shoko Sashi Namu, that is the girl that Haruto is fond of, but he is never able to express his feelings for her, but she also has feelings for him. That's plenty obvious during the season. And then we have this girl Sakiru Kino that apparently has also feelings for Haruto, and eventually near the end of the series they do have a very graphic and explicit sex scene, and also starts as a kind of rape, and then it's kind of become normal because Saki does like this guy and does want to have a relation with him. And then we have other characters that also become Valvreive pilots. We have a guy called Kyuma Inuzuka that basically After another attack from the Dorshans, there was a girl that this guy liked that was killed in the process, and then he kind of, for vengeance, eventually became the pilot of one of other of the Valbrave units, the blue Valbrave unit. And then we also have another guy that is kind of the bully of the school called Raizo Yamada, and he, since the start, he wants to pilot a Valbrave, but he cannot, or the other members of the students' body do not allow it, because this guy is kind of dangerous and unbalanced, because he is quite upset and angry by the Dorchans because his best friend was killed in the first attack, and he wants revenge. But eventually kind of become the pilot of the Valbrave that has a yellow color. And in the end of the episode, we have the last Valbrave pilot appearing. That is a girl called Akira Rainbow Koji, that is the sister of the guy that is in charge of the student council body, and she is kind of ikomori. She does not goes well with other people. She usually speaks through internet, and she is not comfortable being around people. Eventually she kind of becomes a friend of this girl Shoko, and eventually at the end of the episode, trying to save Shoko, she eventually becomes the pilot of the last Valbrave unit. And that's when the series ended. They are going to the moon, trying to have the recognition of the other forces, especially Aros, to recognize them as an independent country and independent force. We have the Dorshans pursuing them. We have a guy in the Dorshan military called Kane, Admiral Kane, that is the guy that since the start of the series is commanding his forces to take over the Valbraves because some other reason, strange reason, or is related with the Valbrave himself, because at the end of the series we kind of see us controlling a Valbrave that is in the line of production, and he kind of shows some powers, and in the end we do learn that he belongs to a faction that basically controls the world from the shadows. And we have this guy LL that eventually after Aruto leave his body, he kind of become a prisoner in this. Then he kind of become the strategist of the fight against the Dorshans and such. So the series was very good. It was, for me, it's the third most fantastic series that came out on the spring season. So for that, this series gets my 8th honorable mention, and also this series will have a second season that will come out in October as the fall season anime. So I'm looking forward to it. Then my 7 ranking in this will be Berserk, and Berserk basically is kinda a dark series with a lot of violence and rape scenes, and basically it's the story of a guy called Guts and his travels during in the world, and his fight against Griffith, that is his friend, even, and he was also one of the members of a group of mercenaries called the Band of the Oak. And then this guy Griffith kind of sleeps with the daughter of the king they are serving. He is thrown to jail, then he is saved by Guts and the remaining members of the Band of the Oak. And then Griffith kind of becomes a supernatural being because he joins a group of 3 that are, I don't, demons, angels, something like that. I do not have this series story too present at this point, but nonetheless this series gets 7 on my honorable mentions list. My 6th honorable mention is series that I do watched a long ago called Devil May Cry, and is based in a franchise of video games that follows the adventures of a guy called Dante that fights against demons because he is also himself half demon, and it follows his fights against them. Then my sixth honorable mention will be a series that came out uh, last year from and aired between 10 of January of 2012 until 27 of March. It's called Another, and is a mystery horror black series by written or based in or novels written by Yukito Yatsushi, and has 12 episodes, and is a very dark series with a lot of deaths, and eventually we learn that behind that there is someone that is a ghost, and is kind of there the we have the main character called Koichi Sakibara, and this guy kind of enrolls in a school, and then there are one person in that class called Mei Mizaki that basically is ignored by others, and basically this is to represent that that classroom or that class is cursed because in the past there was someone that died, and then at some point someone shouted out in a class that the guy is alive, and since that day there will be always a undead that enters in the school and in that class, and eventually if they do not discover who it is, a great catastrophe will happen, and the members of the class will be killed one after the other in weird accidents, in weird situations, the most strange situations of all. They were killed, and they kind of designed a system to prevent that. Is that basically they will be ignoring one member of that class, and they will act as that he or she will never existed, and that in a way in the past worked out because since they started that system nobody died in that class. But at this situation we have this guy that enters in this class, but he is not the original member of the class because he was sick and he did not start the term as the others, and eventually he began stalking with this girl that basically is the one that is chosen as to be the other and the one to be ignored, and he still insists on contact her and talk to her and such, and that eventually disrupt the system, and then a series of catastrophes began to happen, and a lot of people began to die at gruesome forms and such. And this is, if you enjoy horror, dark situations, dark stuff, um, you should watch this because it's good. It's kind of very creepy, very dark at some points, but it's very interesting. Then my fifth honorable mention will be the Tenchi Muyo series. It's a series that I watched when a couple of years now, and basically we have several situations. We have a series. We have the first one called Tenchi Muyo Ryuwaki, is a 20 episode OVA that aired between 1992 and 2005, and then that basically follows the story of a guy called Tenchi Mazaki that is a descendant of space royal family that rules the empire of Jurai, because his grandfather was the crown prince of the empire, and he kind of crashed in Earth pursuing a criminal called Ryoko, and fought against her and sealed her in tombstone in a sacred mountain. And eventually this guy Tenchi Mazaki kinda opens that tomb and unseals her, and then all crap starts to happen. And but it's a very funny it's a harem series. Yes, it's funny. It's sci-fi, with stuff happening in space, and we have a lot of series and movies. Like I said, the first series was Tenchi Muyo Ryuwaki. It was a 20 episode OVA. Then they made a TV series called Tenchi Universe that aired between 2 of April of 1995 and 24 of December of 1995. Then they made another series called Tenchi in Tokyo. This is kind of a spin-off of the original series that aired between 1 of April of 1997 until 23 of December of 1997. And then we have other spin-offs, for instance, Magical Girl Pretty Sammy, Tenchi Muyo EXP or Galaxy Police. That was a series that they made in 22, and that basically follows another character called Sena Yamada and his adventures in joining the Galaxy Police and such. And the last entrance of the series was a series that aired in 2012 called Tenchi Muyo War on Gemina or Isekai no Sekishimo Monogatari. And basically this is a story about the half brother of Tenchi, called Kenshin, that is thrown to a parallel world and he needs to fight against the conspiracy to take over that world. And well, the series Tenchi Muyo series was good. It has space battles, has a decent plot line, and I like it. Has funny interactions between several characters that appear through all the series. And it was also one series that I watched when I was younger, and currently when a new series, usually from the Tenchi Universe series, came out, I usually watch it because I like it, basically. Then another honorable mention, and I think that's the four honorable mention. No, three. I'm forgetting something. No, four. No, three. It's the three honorable mention. It's Tengu Tenge, that is based in a work of Ogre, and it was a series that aired between 1 of April of 24 until 16 of September of 24, with 24 episodes, and the manga already ended. It aired between 1990, it ran between 1998 and 2010 with 22 volumes. And basically this is the story of two guys called, especially one called Suishiro Nagi, that is a guy that possesses powers, and he likes to fight, and alongside it, with his friend Bob Macchiari, they kinda entered in a school that is a school where old martial arts styles were taught, and eventually he gets involved in a conflict between the student council president, led by Mitsuomi Takayanagi, and a group of that lives inside the school, a club called led by Maya Natsume, and that was the former girlfriend of this guy Mitsuomi. And we learn about their past, what happened in their pasts, what is the reason because Mitsuomi become what he is, the way he overthrows his father, and the way he treats his younger brother as trash. And we learn also the past about the Natsume family, even the past about Nagi past and his family, because he is an exorcist. And we have a lot of interesting characters like Bunshinshi Tawawa, that is the advisor, and is a very interesting character. We have a guy that is a bad guy, but nonetheless it's an interesting. It's Fushien, that is basically the master of Mitsuomi, and we have the younger brother of Mitsuomi, Masataka Takayanagi. We have Aya Natsume, that is one of the main heroines of the story, And basically this is a series that goes from the past to the present to the past. It is solves it role. It's also around supernatural powers, supernatural abilities, a lot of fighting, a lot of action, and it's plenty enjoyable series. And even the manga is, I don't remember now exactly how the manga ended, but I remember that I did read that until the end. But nonetheless, this is my honorable mention number 3. My honorable mention number 2 will be Steins Gate. That is a series that I like because the story is about time traveling, and it was very well done. And it was a series that had 24 episodes and went over and aired between 6th of April of 2011 and 14th of September of 2011. And basically it follows the adventures of Rintaro Okabe, a mad scientist, and he saves the girl Kurizu Nakize, and we have other interesting characters like Mayuri Shina, Itaru Darwashida, Maeda Kiryu, and others. And basically, this is based on a video game, and we have alternative settings or alternative endings in the video game. But the series, because it's all about time traveling, the context, the situation, how to create a device to try to do time travel, how can you save someone even, well, it's a concept that interests me, and well, this series is my honorable mention number 2. And my honorable mention number 1 will be the series called Rurouni Kenshin. Is a series that it's about Kenshi Imura, that he was a member of the imperial forces that overthrown the Tokugawa government in the Boshin War. And eventually after the war he kind of became a wanderer, and we have a movie where his youth is explained and how he joined the imperial side and such. And then we have the series that until after the end of the Shishi War, they were following the manga. Then the rest of the series is not canon, because they did not animated it, but they did portray it on a movie later on, or 2 movies if I'm not wrong, and they finish up the manga in that way. And basically this is historical series that happens at the end of the 19th century in Japan, after the Boshin War and during the time of the Meiji restoration. And we dealt with the consequences of the Meiji restoration, because we have samurais that have lost their status, we have former members of the shogunate that are trying to overthrow the government, we have the situation with corrupt politicians that basically took the opportunity to go to the pot, or to the gold pot. We have all the situation how a country can be rebuilt after living in isolation, or isolated from the rest of the world for almost 200 or 300 years. And it's the reality how the Japanese government, the Japanese people cope with the new reality of having to face the world, how to surpass their internal problems, how to put an end to a long tradition of upper class ruling class of samurai and landlords ruling all over the others and such. And is a very interesting series because it depicts very well this reality of the Japan in the end of the 19th century and the transition to the 20th century. And it's very interesting in terms of historical and in terms of how they portray the situation in the country, the factions that appeared. it was a very interesting series for me, not only because I do like the moves and the battles and the fights and such, but mainly because this series, for me, it was a good series to depict the reality in Japan after the Boshin War, during the first years of the Meiji Restoration, and all the difficulties that the government, the people have with coping with this new reality, this new situation that happened in the country. And it's very interesting. And how former samurais, former warriors that did fought in war, or in the either by they fought alongside the shogunate forces, or if they fought on the side of the imperial forces, how they cope with this new reality, a new reality where we do not have the feudal society of Japan as it was, when we have new realities, economical realities, even the development, because there are interesting part about the introduction of railways in Japan and such. It's very interesting, and they made a historical series very well and depicted very well, in my opinion, the transition of one country that lived in isolation from the rest of the world for 200 or 30, 300 years, and how they cope with this new reality. But that's it. So, going to the list again, final. My first honorable mention is the series called Rurouni Kenshin. My second honorable mention will be Steins Gate. My third honorable mention is Tengu Tenge, or Heaven and Earth. My fourth honorable mention will be the Tenchi universe, or all the series related with the Tenchi universe. My fifth honorable mention will be the series called Another. My sixth series will be The Devil May Cry, the animation. My seventh honorable mention is Berserk. My eighth honorable mention is Kakumeki Valvrave, or Valvrave the Liberator. My ninth honorable mention is Suisei no Gargantia, or Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet. And my 10th honorable mention will be High School DxD. So I know this probably is a bit confusing, because I think I lost my way through half the way in the video, but nonetheless this is my 10 honorable mentions to be added to my greatest anime series of all time. So if you watch this video so far, I must thank you for your patience, because this video is quite long. So I will not keep you any longer. Stay well, peace, see you soon.